I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
Cry Havoc.
And check your shelf.
Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war.
The job pays $10,000.
15.
Welcome to Zangar.
Academy Award winner Christopher Walken. The bestseller by Fredrick Forsyth. The Dogs of War.
Welcome to another episode of Check Your Shelf. This week, finally, after threatening since we started this channel, Steve and I are going to talk about a little book we enjoy. The Mercenary's Cookbook, also known as The Dogs of War by Fredrick Forsyth. First printed in 1974, I believe.
And this fits really well with the episodes we have done and plan to do on men's adventure.
Yes. Yeah, I will be doing probably next week. I'll do I'll do a review of the second episode of the SOBs. Maybe even the first, maybe second and third, depending on how much reading time I get this week.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely that, and then of course we're going to go into Horror Mayhem for a little bit, and then when we come out of that, I'll definitely have read the third book by then.
Nice.
I'm going to let you run this ship.
I was going to say, to give you a little break, since you've run the past few and you will continue running them, I will give you a little break. Let's start off with a couple of quotes. First, from mining magnate Sir James Manson. And I quote, "Knocking off a bank or an armored truck is merely crude. Knocking off an entire republic has, I feel, a certain style." Imagine I did that in a British accent.
That's right. Yes, quite, yes.
The other quote I will start with is, and I have, by the way, I have an ammo's crate worth of notes that I took. So y'all will see me continually looking down at my notes to make sure I get to everything. Here's the next quote, my favorite project management quote of all time. "No plan survives first contact with the enemy." That's Moltke, who was a German war planner and general from pre-World War I. He fought, a lot of his experience came from the Prussian wars, the Franco-Prussian
Tyson
wars.
Said something similar to that.
He said something about everybody has a plan until I punch him in the face. The sentiments are the same. The planning is useful, but plans are worthless. And my good friend Paul Schultz, Doomed Wizard, told me about this book first maybe 30 years ago.
Yeah, about that.
And then I finally got around to reading it probably about 20 years ago, maybe 15.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I said to him, this is one of the best fictionalized project management books I've ever read.
Yep.
So and he's like, what now? and today I finally get to explain what I mean by that. So by that point, when I finally got around to reading it, I have a degree in engineering and was an engineer for a little while, and then transitioned my career into being a project manager for technical projects, mostly in pharmaceutical medical device industry, but it doesn't matter because the project management discipline has some common threads through it. And when I read this book, I was like, Kat Shannon, who is the lead character here,
yes,
is a project manager.
He's the project manager.
And bro knows how he can manage the crap out of a project.
He's done it a time or two.
He follows all the steps. Like, I don't know if Fredrick Forsyth has any experience in project management. I probably should have looked at that. Would have been a good thing to know for this.
Let us know down below.
Yeah, let us know down below if anybody knows. But he hits on all the elements. I believe you You may have once said this is one of the best men's adventure books of all time.
It is the men's adventure book of all time. In fact, we probably should tell people briefly what the story is about before we get too deep into the bush.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And that's what we're going to do now. So one of the rules of project management that most project managers skip is the why are you doing this project in the first place? And so I've incorporated at my company, we specialize in project management, and I've incorporated the why are you doing this project in the first place into every single project. In this case, the why is, and each stakeholder has their own why, like why they're in it. And the best projects, everybody's aligned on why they're doing the project, or at least my why fits into your why. So in this case, the person who the sponsor, what in project lingo is called the sponsor, is this Manson guy that I read the quote from. He owns this British conglomerate company, like more money than God. Think of Elon Musk, but British.
Yeah, quite the same.
Yeah, right. Instead of South African apartheidist, British capitalist.
Yeah.
So he has a suspicion about this mountain in Africa. So he commissions this explorer to go get some samples from this mountain and brings those samples back. He has the scientists look at them, and it turns out that mountain's worth probably billions of dollars in today's money.
Yeah.
But nobody knows it because he's the only
in
one that...
1974, they didn't have a number for how much this mountain was worth.
He could have bought the moon. I'll trade you this mountain for the moon. But this mountain would have been more valuable because it was chock full of platinum. And at that time, he also saw, because of all the industries he was in, platinum was going to continue to be a huge industrial raw material. Plus, platinum just, this is a platinum ring. If you want to see what platinum looks like, there you go. That's platinum. This is show and tell day.
Hey, we bring props to this show.
So he's like, okay, but the government of the country that this mountain is in isn't necessarily friendly to Great Britain. Right. And they're kind of cozying up to the Soviets. And for those of you born after 1980 or so, go look up Soviet Union.
Yeah.
That was in almost every book that had anything to do with intrigue or anything. You had the Soviets involved, right?
As I said in a previous video, the fall of communism, the crumbling of the wall, pretty much put the kibosh on action adventure novels.
That's right. Then
they shifted over to the desert. Yeah, right. They left the commies and they went over to the desert.
Yeah, and it was hard not to be racist when you do that.
Yeah, very much so.
That's a whole episode. Maybe we could find a book. So this British, person with more money than God figures, well, I can't out and out buy the country. They won't let me do that, even though I have plenty of money. So what I'll do is I'll topple the current dictator, put my own dictator in who's friendly to my interests, and I will make tons of money. There's some technical ways they go about figuring out how they can make money from that, but they can do it in a way that it doesn't trace back to him.
Right.
In other words. So his why, obviously, money. Lots and lots of money, but mainly power. Money is power when you get to that point. It's not so I can buy more eggs. It's so you get more power, right?
Well, what was it Tom Cruise said in Tropic Thunder? Lots of money.
Lots of money. So he enlists this guy, Cat Shannon, and there's 2 projects in this book, by the way. The first project he enlists him in is to go figure out the military situation down there. And when he tells Cat Shannon this is why I'm doing this, he's like, this country's about to be rich beyond its wildest dreams, but its dictator is bad for its people. It's bad for business. It's just bad in general. We have heard that the military is ready to push this guy out, or there are some people who aren't military people, whoever. There are some people in the country who are willing to push him out and put their guy in, and their guy will be better for the people and better for democracy and better for business, right? So he's trying to convince Cat Shannon, who can see through, he can see bullshit through an 8-foot thick concrete reinforced wall, right?
I mean, his first name isn't Cat, but he has eyes like a cat, and he can see right through you.
That's right. So after he gives him this why, Cat Shannon is a mercenary.
Mm-hmm.
So his why will always involve money.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, any project manager, anybody who does anything for a living, part of your why is making a living.
Sure.
This isn't some sort of strange hobby, right?
Yeah.
We're in the,
If it is a very strange
Right.
hobby.
but he also, as you read the book, find out he has a sense of justice.
Mm-hmm.
All mercenaries have some sense of the warrior's code, the
Yeah.
honor among thieves, or whatever, you know, the Mike Ehrmantraut ethos. You pay me, I do a job. I do the job you paid me to do. But also, if I see something unjust in the world and I get a chance to do something about it,
Yeah.
that's part of his why. So that all,
and if you lie to me, I'll find out.
that's right. We have our ways.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the beginning of any project should start with, why are we even doing this project? Even if it's as simple as, you know, there's two communities not that are separated by a river. Both of their economies would be better if we connected them with a bridge. Project, build a bridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the why? It's not so we have a bridge. It's so these communities can intersperse and have better economies, and families can see each other more often, that kind of thing. That's the why of it all. All right, so what's the first project? The first project, this is where you get into what we call the charter and the plan. The charter is basically a high-level plan. It's the, you know, if you had to tell somebody in less than 30 seconds what the plan is, that's basically the charter. And then the plan gets into the details of how exactly are you going to go about achieving this thing. So the first project is the Manson, who's the CEO of this company, hires Cat Shannon to go get a read on what the military situation is down there in Zangaro. Is that what it is?
Zangara. Yeah.
Zangara. To sort of figure out how hard would it be to topple this dictator, right? And there's a schedule. It's 10 days. There's a scope. The scope is go do the assessment and bring me back a report. You know, if he were to say, oh, while I'm there, if I can topple the guy, would that be in scope? It'd be like, no, that's not in scope. I don't care how easy it is. That's not part of your scope. If you do decide to do that when you're there, you got to get my approval first, right? So that's like scope control.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're building that bridge, putting lights on it might not be part of the scope. But if you decide you want to, you got to get approval from the people that own the budget before you go do that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a schedule. He's got a budget, you know, $2,500 in his 1,000 British pounds, about in that at that time, 2,500 US dollars. So then the execution, he gets it done on time, under budget. You know, he goes down there, he does his little assessment. And that's an interesting part of the book, but it's a pretty short project. It's 10 days. He's back.
Yeah.
He's back early and he gives them the report. And part of every good project found on page 127 is the project summary report, which pretty much that was what we call a deliverable. His deliverable wasn't go to Africa, go to Zangara. It wasn't go find out about stuff. His deliverable was this final report that starts on page 127. I think it was about that moment when I read his report where I was like, huh, this seems like a project. So it's an interesting, but I'll tell you the moment when I really was like, oh, well, this is definitely a project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was the first project. He comes back, gives the information. So project number 2, things that he read in Shannon, we'll call him Shannon, in Shannon's plan. He's like, well, okay, we could topple this guy, but then there's going to be a power vacuum. Then what do we do? We gotta, and these military guys, the military guys can't really do the toppling. Part of the report was, he did ask him for more. He said to Shannon, okay, now that you've given me this assessment of the military situation, tell me what it would take to then actually carry this out. like actually topple the guy. So Cat Shannon gives him another document, but before he does, he says, "Yeah, I'll be happy to do that for you. That'll be, I think it was another £1,000." To which the guy goes, "What do you mean £1,000 for a couple sheets of paper with some words on them?" He's like, "You're not paying for the words on the paper. You're not paying for the paper and the words. I'm a military expert.
Yeah.
You're paying. I know how to fight war." He's like, if you go to your accountant or your lawyer and you get advice from them, they don't give it to you for free.
Yeah.
Right. You pay them.
Right.
I am a war advisor. You will pay me for my advice.
Yeah. Or if you're an artist and it's like, why should I pay you? It only took you an hour to draw this because it took me 20 years to be able to do that in an hour. So that's why you're paying me.
That's right, man. Get paid for your work. That's the message for you children out there, you little leaguers. So Shannon goes ahead and develops the plan, which you might consider like a proposal, like they've requested a proposal for what would this take, right? And starting on page 143, he writes out the scope in a high level plan of what that might look like. And this was the moment that I knew that this was a project management book.
You got it.
It's got line items with amounts next to the line items, what each thing will cost. Reconnaissance visit, £2,500. Project commander's fee, £10,000. Engage all other personnel and their salaries, $10,000. I love that the commander makes as much as everybody else combined. That's awesome.
Yep.
Purchase of arms, purchase of vessel, the vessel being the ship to get the arms down there. Purchase of ancillary equipment, reserve, very important. And when I read that reserve, I was like, this guy, Forsyth's got project management experience. Any budget should have what we sometimes call contingency. He's calling it reserve here, which is like, no plan survives contact with the enemy. I don't know what I might run into. You don't want me running back. The arms, instead of being, 25,000 pounds, they might be 25,200 pounds. You don't want me running back to you every time something's 10 cents more than it was supposed to be. So you put a little reserve in there, little cushion.
Jim Rockford used to call it plus expenses.
Plus expense. Then you got the timeline. He's got preparatory stage. This word's going to become fairly common here in my next segment. Preparatory stage, 20 days. Purchasing stage, 40 days. Assembly stage, 20 days. Shipment stage, 20 days. And then what he calls strike day. And when it would take place. That's the big go live, the startup. That's when everything happens, right?
Or as he called it in the book, the big killing.
The big killing, exactly. Now, okay, so you've got the why. You got this big mountain of platinum that the corporation wants. Why for Cat is just what I do for a living. And you know what? I've been there before. This is where like some of the foreshadowing. I've been there before. I know what goes on. I know what kind of POS this guy is. I might be able to exact a little justice of my own, while I'm down there. But then you've got the project is in simple terms, go topple this guy so that we can put in our guy, right? He's like, okay, well, it's going to take some guns. It's going to take some people. So he lays out the scope is, who am I toppling and what am I doing it with, right? And then the schedule, 100 days. Budget always includes resources, money, equipment. So he's like, I'm going to need people. I'm going to need guns. I'm going to need a boat to get the guns there. And we're going to need living expenses, right? So all the elements are there. He breaks down the schedule, and you mentioned recipe. Page 146, it has the recipe. Then we get into what you love about these books, right? You've got the why, you've got the setup. Now we get into he's got to go out and build the team. He's got to find people dressed like me, just hanging out. spending the money they made on the last job at the local, whiskey joint.
Yep, down to the last couple bucks in their pocket,
Yeah, that's right. Hanging out with the latest love of their life. This is the part that I love, is the execution doesn't start on strike day. It doesn't start on the killing day. Is that what you?
The big killing
the
is
big
like
killing.
what part 3 of this book is called. Yeah.
There's another issue with projects so scope, schedule, budget, sometimes called the holy trinity of projects, and risk. And risk comes in when something might go wrong. And since things usually go wrong, you want to kind of think about what might go wrong, right?
Yes.
So he covers those things too. The sponsor covers risk as well by using the stage gate approach, because there's a risk if he said, okay, this is going to cost this many pounds to do. Okay, here's the money. Go make it happen. Cat Shannon disappears and the money's gone, and I don't have my platinum mountain, right? But you got to give him some money, because you can't expect him to bankroll this thing on his own, right? So you hand it out in stages. So for the preparatory stage, here's enough money to get you through that stage. I love the details of how they transfer the money with the Swiss banks, and each hotel has its own, like you could deposit money from the bank and then you can get it in cash, or put it over in your own bank. And I was fascinated by that.
The nuts and bolts, the minutia of this book. Like I said, I call it the mercenaries, cookbook. But you would think just reading it would be it would be boring, but it's not. It's fascinating. It's also fascinating 50 years later to read it, because you also get to see how vastly different the world is now versus then. Yeah. But like you pointed out, you could do all this. Just some of the methods have changed a little bit. The means to how you do it have changed a little bit. But yeah, no, this thing holds up. Not that I'm an expert in toppling governments, but
right. I feel like I am after reading this book. It's like we always say with books, right? I mean, a really skilled author will leave you coming away feeling as though you know all about that world.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Like we've talked about Clark. He briefly would touch on how like the photon energy worked, and suddenly I'm a nuclear physicist now.
Exactly.
If you're reading Forsyth, you're much like Clark. You're not reading it for character study. There's an interesting thing that happens though with a title like The Dogs of War and all the hype that is around that particular phrase, and the fact that in 81 or 83, somewhere in that ballpark, there was they made a movie of it, which you think it's this action-packed book full of fighting and killing and everything we remember about 80s action movies, but it's really not. But it's so damn fast-paced how it gets through it. And the Dogs of War in this case is everybody involved in this thing. Everyone is out for a piece of something. They're all biting off of it. Everyone involved, from Benteen to Martin to Shannon, everybody. They're all the Dogs of War. In fact, Shannon and company are the only ones who aren't like the savage dogs, because they're not kidding themselves who they are. Yeah. All right. Other than that, I have an opinion.
I love that you're trying to gesture, but the jungle is getting in your way.
Well, it's part of the risk.
Man, these dang mosquitoes.
Good thing I got my malaria shot. The beauty of the way you're handling this episode is because it basically mirrors how the book is laid out. Because I know a lot of people probably click the button because they want to hear this, like I said earlier, this badass fighting story. But it ain't. But it is extremely fascinating. I love the parallels between the two.
A lot of people may not finish this because they'll be like, I didn't tune in for a business lecture. Like, well, I'm sorry, man. Paul needed a break. All projects have complications. Sometimes those complications come from externalities, something totally out of the project manager's control. The Soviets are in on this too, trying to get their guy in, right? Are trying to their guy actually is. They're trying to make the guy that's already in their guy. It's like
Mm.
it's like the old joke of the NASA spent, $12 million on a pen that would write in space, and the Soviets used a pencil.
Yep.
So so the British are going to spend all this money, this high risk operation to get the one guy out and get their guy in. The Soviets are like, why don't we just make the guy that's already in our guy?
Yeah, which is the obvious thing to do, but we all see how that ended.
That
If you
that'd
read the
be called
book.
the dogs of diplomacy. Somebody's out to kill Cat Shannon. Like somebody hires somebody to assassinate Shannon for some
Mm-hmm.
reason. Shannon finds out everything's not what it seems. As we said, he can see through bullshit a mile thick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he knows something's up, so he does a little digging and finds out, they're in this for the money. They're not in this for the, justice of it all.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, there's the big killing, the go live, the startup, strike day, whatever you
Yep.
want to call it, which
Yep.
is one of the best written military battles, especially if you're looking at guerrilla style jungle
Yep.
warfare that I've ever
And
read.
and it's a complete shift. If you think as you're reading through the middle of this book that is the finale going to be as dry as this? And I love dry, by the way. It's my favorite martini. But is it going to be as dry as all this? The short answer is nope.
The long
It
answer
is
is
very
hell no.
poetic. It is very action oriented. It is everything. I keep going back to it. It's been borrowed so many times. This was the style. The big killing has been aped so many times in action adventure novels and movies for that matter.
Yeah, and it was a good introduction for me because it's where I learned the meaning of the phrase "fire for effect," uh, and I just the way everything came off. It's like I was there for the
Mhm.
entire planning, preparation, and everything, and even I was impressed with how well it came off. Right?
Mhm.
Because part of what he did is he picked the right team. They've
Mhm.
done this before. They know how this works.
Yep.
They had all the information they needed to make this work really well. And they had the flexibility to adjust when things didn't go exactly according to plan.
Right.
And it's stuck in my head all these years. The dudes firing the mortar couldn't even see the compound.
Yep.
They just knew about approximately where to shoot. And then they had the radios and the guys were like, a little to the left, a little to the right, a little farther. Okay, right there, fire for effect.
Yeah.
And we use that in business, actually.
Mm.
You don't, like in business, you don't just put all of your huge investment into an initiative and just go all out to do the initiative until you've done a few experiments.
Mhm.
You fire a little bit here, and then somebody goes, "Oh, that was okay, but move it to the left a little." You do that in business as well, and now I call it fire for effect. It's just
Good.
that the effect happens to be killing people. Fire for effect.
killing lots of people,
Lots and lots of people.
including those crafty Russians.
Yeah. Spoiler warning. I mentioned at the beginning that Shannon's idea of justice is different from that of the capitalists. So at the end, we find out that Shannon had indeed, as he had said, been to Zangara before. He knew the situation there, and he knew who the rightful president of the country should be
Right.
for the good of the people. And so once he toppled the government, the British corporations guy was ready to come in, but he's like, no, you must go. And he got the guy in who should have been in there in the first place. So,
Right. Well, as much as I don't like the movie, even though it has a very young Christopher Walken in it, it's kind of one of those examples like when I said before that had I read this book before I read the SOBs, I probably would have hated the SOBs. I read the book before I even knew there was a movie, and I rented the movie one night. And that's how long ago it was, and it's awful. It guts everything that makes the book great out of it. The only thing that I think it does kind of interestingly is when Shannon goes to do the recon in Zangara, he gets caught and he gets his ass beat and tortured. And while he's laying in this Zangaran prison getting tortured to find out who sent you, and he's never going to give it up because it's a code. There's a doctor in the prison who takes care of him. And at the end, when the shit hits the fan, and the action in the movie is quite good, he basically finds the doctor and kills the dude that the corporation wants in, and puts the doctor in place, and then just like walks off camera, and with his dead buddies are everywhere because a couple of them, just like in the book, not everybody makes it out alive.
Yeah, I might check it out. Check out, especially the big killing.
Yeah, it's very watered down. Like I said, they strip out so much of the charm, of the minutia, of the patina of the book, and because they got to tell a story in 90 minutes,
Right.
So they really cram together a lot of the elements and kind of make a hodgepodge of it. But the finale is great. I'm not saying it's better. God, no, I'm not saying it's better. But I really do like the twist in the way they handle the twist in the movie.
If you guys have a book out there, like a really exciting adventure, let's say, and you want me to make it seem boring, just let us know. I can make any book seem boring.
Well, I had somebody in the comments a while back mentioning that I should do the wild geese as well. So we may do that one day, but not anytime soon. So, Steve, out of a 4 and 3 and 2 and 1, how would you rate Fredrick Forsyth's The Dogs of War?
3.5.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a 7.
7.
All right, well, that'll close the cover on this episode. I hope it was worth everybody's wait. You can find this book literally anywhere, and it's pretty cheap. I think I paid $10 for my hardback, my paperback even less back in the day. I got both of these copies off of eBay for less than $10. So.
It was harder to get the sticker off of this one than those half-price book ones.
Yeah, half-price books, man. They got their sticker game down. I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
And the next time you're looking for something to read,
you better check your shelf. If you ever do ASMR, you'll have to go to audio settings and turn that off. Turn off noise suppression.
If I ever do ASMR, I'm just gonna ASMR blow my brains out.
World's shortest ASMR video.